First of all, I want to thank Dale and Mike for inviting me to come speak. Dale and I spoke about this book months ago, and she was very intrigued and wanted me to speak about it, and she asked me, actually a week ago, if I would do this. It was almost 2 weeks ago, but a week ago was when she said, could you do it next Friday? So, and that's good because I need that little oomph sometimes too. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and it's interesting when I started putting this program together, I realized that is what I do all day long. In what I do as a human being, as a person, and also what I do in my business life too, is I teach emotional intelligence. And so today's topic specifically for all of you is about your emotional intelligence, the key to your connection in business and life. Can you guys see okay? Okay, because tell me, Mike, where's my end over here? Oh, the chairs. Okay. Got it. Yeah, because I'm being filmed too. So, okay. So what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence, which is referred to as EI, is the ability to identify, assess, and control emotions of oneself, of others, and of groups. And this comes from Wikipedia, and you know how important Wikipedia is, and it's right on. EI is also referred to as EQ, which is the numerical measure for emotional intelligence. And that's what Dale was referring to earlier. So we have a quote from Daniel Goleman, and Daniel Goleman is a psychologist and an author, and he was one of the first to write about emotional intelligence, probably in the late 90s, about emotional intelligence in the workplace and how key it is. This quote is, even though a high IQ is no guarantee for prosperity, prestige, or happiness in life, our schools and our culture fixate on academic abilities, ignoring the emotional intelligence that also matters immensely for our personal destiny. And you know, that's important. You know, a lot of times we focus on how smart our kids are, but do they know how to work, you know, with other kids? Do they know how to relate, you know, emotionally? So by the time they get to grade school, do they know how to work in teams? And it's interesting, you know, even at the University of Arizona, they focus on, and most colleges, focus on putting people in groups because that group piece is so important of being able to work with other people. Because what happens in the workplace years later? They've got to be able to work with others and work with teams. So how is my IQ different from my EQ? And you can see just by this little diagram, hopefully you guys can see that from the back. Your IQ is what you see. It's just the top of the peak. That's what people see. You don't necessarily see someone's EQ, which is actually what's more important. And it is actually functioned by your unconscious mind. 97% of what we do on a daily basis comes from our unconscious mind. And, you know, we may have certain habits or actions or things that we do, and we're not even aware why. And it is from our unconscious. But that's also part of understanding what your unconscious is and where you come from. So your IQ, your intelligence quotient, is the value that indicates a person's ability to learn and to understand and apply information and skills in a meaningful way. And your EQ, your emotional quotient, is a way to measure how a person recognizes emotions in themselves, in other people, and manages those emotional states to work better as a group. So there are actually 4 key areas in regarding emotional intelligence. The first area is personal competencies, which is made up of your self-awareness and also your self-management. And that's, and when I say self-awareness, it's not, you know, oh, I like chocolate and I like to go hiking. And it's not just those things. It's really who you are and what makes you tick. You know, why do I have certain habits? Why do I act a certain way? What triggers me? Really, it's really digesting yourself. And I will tell you that the most important way to be able to do that is to spend quiet time reflecting on who you are and what happens in your life. And as I was sharing with Dale, in all of my workshops, I give individuals time to do reflective work. Right, Susan? And it's important to take that quiet time to just ask yourself some questions. And the awareness can be very key. And self-management is how you are in handling yourself in certain situations. And we'll go through some more details here in just a moment. And your social competence, your social awareness, it's really being aware of other people, being aware of, you know, how you are in a dialogue and a conversation, your listening skills, your empathy. You know, empathy is a key factor in working with other individuals, because if you don't have empathy for another person, it's like you're living, in a little wall surrounding yourself too. And then relationship management, that's actually bringing all three of the components together, and more importantly, in the workplace is the relationship management. How many of you actually work in a corporate environment with numerous people? Raise your hand. Okay, so that's part of working with other people. And I know for those of you solopreneurs, as I am too, I used to have that when I worked at Patio Pools. I worked with a team of 350 people, and I had 4 people working underneath me. So I had that on a daily basis, and it's a little bit different now. And so my skills in that area, after I took the analysis and the appraisal, weren't as high as they used to be in the past because I'm not practicing them. And we'll go through some details to just share with you what that looks like. So when we talk about personal competence, really who you are. Spending quiet time, aha moments. I'm amazed when I do my workshops and I ask individuals to really go inside and look and see what's there, the aha moments that show up, which they may not have if they weren't paying attention or if they really weren't focusing on that quiet time. Sometimes our lives are so busy with our personal things, our work life, we don't spend that quiet time, but it's very valuable. And it's a very self-honoring practice is to spend quiet time. So, personal competencies, personal competence. Number 1 is self-awareness. It's really being conscious of how you show up in the world. And by doing that, and actually everything that I share here, I went through the learning process myself. Number 1, through what happened, I think it was, I call it my midlife, it's not my midlife crisis, it was my midlife awakening. And it was part of really discovering who I am. I got lost in, being a mom and being a wife and working for my family business, and I got lost. So it was really discovering, what do I really want in my life? Who do I really want in my life? And so through that process, through years of therapy, and also my program at the University of Santa Monica is a wisdom and academic-based program that helped me really see who I was. And it was important because I made changes within my life at that point in time by discovering what I really wanted and what I wanted in my work life. Every month that I would go to school, it was real clear that it's time for me to leave the family business. I have more gifts to share with the world than what I'm sharing there. And it wasn't until I did that reflective work that I saw that. Being conscious of your actions, reactions, habits, and behaviors. And the distinction between an action and a reaction, you probably all know that. An action is that you're taking charge of something. I'm going to act. I'm going to do this. A reaction is that you are acting based upon something else that happened externally outside of you. So a crisis happens. How do you react to a crisis? And when you're looking at a bigger picture rising above it, there could have been a way to prevent whatever it may have been to happen, to train your employees in a different way, to perhaps speak differently, perhaps maybe listening differently, whatever it might be. That is a way of taking action as opposed to being reactive. And then also being able to be self-reflective on your life. I keep talking about that. I'm going to continue to talk about that. And so self-management is knowing how you manage your emotions. And in the workplace, some folks believe that emotions aren't important in the workplace. We should keep all of our emotions at home. Well, guess what? We're hardwired as human beings to show our emotions. Sad, glad, happy, angry, fear, they're all emotions that we need to acknowledge. And what's actually important in understanding your emotions is what triggers them too. And knowing what might be a trigger, if it upsets you, because as in the workplace, if something, like Pam, say for instance, you've got a client that, or actually, let me say it, when you manage the professional women's group, there might be women in the group that trigger you when they come up with crazy ideas and they want you to step into your value system and break rules. And so it's like, okay, what's wrong with that? This triggers me every time. And part of that is something inside of you is, I'm a rule follower. I follow rules. I don't do that. But perhaps even, working with it and learning how to process those upsets too. So that's a key. Sorry for that example, but.
She's smiling. Must be relating to it.
Hey, I'm a rule follower too. If somebody asks me to break rules, it's like, no, that's a boundary I'm not going to do. So, and then also being a big picture thinker. and seeing your part in any situation. You know, if, say for instance, Sonny, you have a crisis that's happening. You know, you've got some manager that's not doing something, and how easy you can get sucked into it. You know, you get sucked into their emotion. But it's part of rising above it. These are all leadership skills, too. Rising above it and saying, okay, you know what, maybe I didn't give this person enough information. I'm going to, you know, change what I did here, too, as opposed to continually getting caught up in it. So as a big picture thinker, it's like, okay, we should have done the training, which would have helped here, would have helped here, and really, you know, seeing how you are in the bigger picture too. And that moves us to the next one, which is self-responsibility. Taking responsibility for who you are, taking responsibility for your part in any relationship. When you've got two people in a relationship, whether it's personal or professional, you have a part in it. And it's easy, hello, and it's easy in to blame somebody else and to move into victimhood, blaming somebody else. This crisis happened, it's their fault. It's her fault. As opposed to, you know what? I wasn't clear about what I should have done. And you know what? I jumped in and I started spreading bad words too. I take responsibility for that. You know what? From now on, I'm not going to do that. So self-responsibility is key in looking at your own self-management. And then being able to manage yourself in any situation. You know, this is key in the work environment. You might, and I'm sure, Sonny, you guys have all sorts of crazy things happen. So, yeah, I mean, in human resources, when I worked with my team, I mean, we had all sorts of crazy things that showed up. And every time there was a crisis that happened, as the leader, I was the one that kept everybody calm. And I had to have them, my team, learn how to just, you know, take all the facts in, pay attention to what's going on, let's question people, see what's going on, and then we can make a decision. Otherwise, you know, the other end of that is diving in, a crisis happened, you know, people go off in all sorts of crazy directions and decisions can be made that may not be so smart. So it's really looking at yourself in every situation too. Perhaps you're the one that keeps everybody else calm. And that's important too, if you can do that. If you've got too many emotional people, that's key. So social competence, and this is working with teams and working with groups, whether it be you know, you could be on a committee, you could be on a board, or people in your work environment. And for those of us that are solopreneurs, you know, it's more along, you know, working with groups like this too. And relationships. This is, you know, with your loved ones, your key personal relationship. This is important. This is part of working with other people. So in your social competence, social awareness is the first key factor. And I'm not sure if you can see over here. Barb, okay. Okay, you're hearing it again. It focuses on your ability to understand the emotions of those around you. And in understanding that, and I'm going to move into the second one, which is deep listening and empathy for who the other person is. When I teach my communication skills course, this is one of the key aspects of really honing in and listening to the deeper levels of what somebody might be saying. You know, Susan, you might have a vendor that you're working with who is struggling with some sort of crisis, and you're going to give them that valuable time, and you actually hear that, you know, deeper behind that, they might be having some financial problems. Maybe they didn't come out and say it, but it's showing up in the conversation, and you listen to them. And it's so important when you give somebody that respect of that listening piece, and then perhaps you even say, you know, is there something deeper here? And so it's really kind of using your intuition about what's happening with somebody else and having empathy for them, because you never know what's happening to somebody else in their life. They could be having a personal crisis. You know, they could have had a crisis that just happened, a loved one die, and, you know, they're showing up in a certain way that isn't normally how they are. So it's really having empathy for who and what they are. And putting your own agenda aside and focusing your attention on the other person. There are so many times in conversations, you're having a dialogue, and in your mind, you want things to be a certain way, and you know you're right. And and so it's really shifting the focus to the other person and really hearing what they have to say. It's like, okay, my agenda, I'm just not going to hear that right now. I really am going to be here for this person and be very respectful. And then the last one in social awareness is to stop judging other people. You know, in the workplace, you can judge people as being, you know, Steve, you've got technicians working for you, correct? Do you find sometimes that maybe they might be immature and they may not have all the business skills? Did I get that right? Business ethic that you wish they had. So
ethics are fine. It's everything else that's a problem.
well, and when you and here's something to look at when you judge them as being stupid, incompetent, whatever it might be, you're putting up a wall. By having empathy for them, maybe they don't know what they don't know. Sometimes our younger generations don't have the wisdom and the maturity that we have. And so, they need to learn that. They need to experience it. Sometimes they have to experience it the hard way. So, like sometimes losing their job. That happens too. So judging people, at the level is just really, accepting them for who they are. Because the more judgment you have out there, you've got all those walls out there. And you end up surrounding yourself and around with that wall too. And then relationship management, which is bringing all three of these components together. And it's focusing on building relationships with others. And it's building. It's continually building. Everything that social media is about, it's about building relationships. Mike talked about that yesterday because he came in right after my presentation and was speaking about, it's about relationships. And it's continually building those relationships and being who you are and being authentic in who you are. And although sometimes online you can show up as a different persona, but the more you can be authentic with who you are, you don't have to come up with a different persona or something that's fake. And then being able to communicate with a variety of different types of personalities. Sunny, how many different types of personalities do you have working for you? Right. And they come from all walks of life, and some of them might be older people who just want an easy job and just want something simple, or they just need extra cash, and some people, that's their money, that's their income, and you just never know, but it's just respecting and being able to work with people. As I shared yesterday in my role as HR manager at Patio, I had to be able to work with a construction worker, a ditch digger, a professional salesperson making six figures, or a division manager, all the way across the board. And that was something that I had to learn, because there was a period of time where I did have judgment, and I had to put that aside and say they're all here to do their job. Everybody has a different gift and different abilities, and this is where they want to be, and that's okay. And for those that wanted to, improve their life, they did. And for those that just wanted to dig ditches, that's fine too. I learned to respect them for being a human being where they were in their life, and at all walks of lives. And also building solid relationships over time. And I use Dale as an example of this. Dale is a wonderful networker. You're in so many different networking groups, but you're building those relationships. And by building your relationships, at some point, probably now, it's all going to come forward, and they all want to do business. And that's part of the social competency in building relationship management, because it's the continuous relationships. And those that experience Dale are going to refer other people. And so that's just the continuous process of working in business. You want those referrals. So here's an example of people who have low EQ. Dr. Sheldon Cooper. Has anybody ever seen him on Big Bang Theory? He's hilarious. He's a PhD. He's brilliant. He's genius, but he doesn't know how to relate to other people. He struggles, and in his own mind, he's got little stories that he makes up of why certain things are a certain way. And not to say all PhDs are like that. I had a nice little conversation with Dr. Sharif Morgan yesterday. And he knows some people that are like that. But really, it's having the balance between, having the IQ and the EQ. And it's important. And then I also have another little quick cartoon here. Who loves Dilbert? They have the cutest little business ones here. So anyways, this little guy says, since I became project manager, no one has returned my calls or responded to my emails. And then in the middle section it says, luckily, I'm an ITT graduate, mentally superior to most people on Earth, so I finished the project myself. And that's what happens. Some people think they're smarter than everybody else, and that's where the judgment comes in. And the little guy next to him says, are you tired? He goes, I am trained only to sleep during national holidays. So anyways, that's just a cute little example of somebody who may be low in EQ. So I found this little diagram and online, and it actually talks about how all of them work together with your emotional intelligence. And this is an important factor. You know, you're by yourself, then you're with other people. And so it's just that continuous process. I believe, and this is what I teach in my one-on-one coaching, my workshops with teams, and also my personal development workshops, is that the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. That's where it starts. Really understanding who you are, what you want in your life, what you want your life to be like. And then, you know, beyond that, you can share with others too, because the more you understand what you want, there might be some people that you don't want in your life. There might be some toxic people that take your energy, and you can have the choices to be able to let go of those folks too, unless they're your family members, and you can just limit your time with them. I hear you, Gus. Or move to another state. When you're working with your family members, you can learn how to manage your emotions. I mean, I had to learn how to do that too. I was triggered deeply by my brother and another manager. And I showed this yesterday, is that they had this very powerful male energy, and in the past, around powerful male energy, I became small. I would shrink. And so I didn't want to compete with them. It's just like, fine, you know. But what it did is it made me small, and I gave my own power up. So I learned how I was in that, and I learned to stand up for myself. I learned to say no. I learned to say my truth. And the more they saw that, the more they respected me. And I saw them less as big, powerful men, and they were my peers, is really what they were. So it was my illusion in my head. And it was my work that I did on myself, too. So that's a key factor, is really knowing yourself. So can improving my EQ help me in my business? Why, yes. Improving your EQ, how am I on my time? Okay. Okay. Well, then we can go over I won't be able to review the list, but they have the list to be able to look at. Yes, improving your EQ will enhance your relationship with yourself, your work colleagues, and your clients, anybody that you're in contact with in the work environment, and your relationship with your loved ones and your friends and your personal life. It will change your way of being in all areas of your life. So we have a quote again from Daniel Coleman. Motivation aside, if people get better at these life skills, everyone benefits. The brain doesn't distinguish between being a more empathic manager and a more empathic father. How powerful is that? So what can I do to improve my emotional intelligence? And this is when we move into the handout you've got here. And I'm just going to review these quickly. If you want to talk with me later, you can. To improve your self-awareness, stop judging your feelings. Feel your feelings when they are present for you. Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, shame. Keep a journal about your feelings and your emotions so you can go back and look at them. Journal at the end of each day to reflect your day. Know and practice your core values. Make loving and honorable choices to care for you. And sometimes the word no can be very powerful in doing that. Have healthy boundaries with others. And have a support system that gives you honest feedback. To also improve your self-management skills, write your goals down and share them with others. Makes it very powerful. Wait 10 seconds before you respond to something that may negatively trigger you. Sleep on it. You don't have to make a decision right away. You can wait. Talk to a skilled self-manager. Smile and laugh more. Do a joy-filled activity at least once a day. Create a patterning journal to track your upsets, your joys, and your times of equanimity. And equanimity is a space where your emotions are kind of in an even keel, not high and not lows. It's a very powerful space to be in. Accept every difficult situation as an opportunity to learn a life lesson. To improve your social awareness, greet people by name. They love that. They love to be acknowledged. Practice reflective listening in your conversations and focus on the other person. Ask open-ended questions to create a greater dialogue between you and the other person. Look for opportunities to praise someone. Catch them doing something right. Watch their body language of others. Be present with whomever you are with. Give them your undivided attention. And that's just being honorable and hearing them. Paying attention to the emotional quotient of others around you. Now that you know this, you might be paying attention to others, whether that be good, bad, or indifferent. And to use your intuition to sense the social culture around you, no matter where you go. And to improve your relationship management, be open about yourself and be curious about others. And when I say being open, it means share with other people about your strengths and your weaknesses, and ask them about theirs. The more you model it, they will move into it too. Live within your value system of honesty, respect, and integrity. Enhance your natural communication style. Learn how to receive feedback positively. That can be a challenge.
Yes.
Build trust. Acknowledge the other person's feelings. Take responsibility for your part in the relationship. That's key. When you care, show it. And explain your decisions. Don't just make them. And make your feedback direct and constructive when you're working with others. So we have a quote from Ayman Sawaf, who is another author and psychologist in the emotional intelligence field. Learning how to become emotionally literate is one of the best investments that human beings can make for themselves, their children, and the future. And these are my resources of the books I've got up here. This is Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And actually, when you receive this book, you get a little certificate where you actually can take, there's a little appraisal, a little analysis to see where you are in the 4 areas. I took mine, and it was interesting that I saw that the areas I need to work on too. Wired to Care, how companies can prosper when they create widespread empathy. A Whole New Mind, why right brainers will rule the future. Those with empathy and creative aspects. And the Empathy Factor, your competitive advantage for personal, team, and business success. Whoops.
So if you
I'm hooked
only
on
get
there.
one book,
This one. I would recommend Emotional Intelligence.
That's the one
And it's actually a very easy read.
Sure.
And it has, I mean, a lot of this information came from here, and some of it just comes from my training that I do too. So I highly recommend it. And I think it's as Dale had mentioned, it's important. It's an important factor in how people are in the workplace. And if I would have been able to give my prospective employees an emotional intelligence test before I hired them, I would do that every single time. So, any questions?